There are a lot of great animated works out there, but only a handful of them are films that I like to classify as truly a feel-good type of movie. And by this, I mean a movie where you know it is close to your heart, perhaps because you watched it as a child and loved it, or because that no matter how many times you've seen it, there's just something about it that makes you feel warm and fuzzy on the inside while still being an incredibly entertaining film throughout. That's what I feel about the movie Surf's Up, which among some other great films like A Bug's Life and The Adventures of Tintin are examples of films and shows that hold a special place in my heart because something about them grabbed me and hasn't seemed to let go since I first watched them. While I've enjoyed other works that have come since then, there's something different about these ones that just speak truer when it comes to me and my own experience with them, and I can't exactly describe why apart from they just gravitated towards me and I just simply love them. They're just so much fun and yet also interesting, captivating, and even wholesome to watch. But the thing that's especially unique with Surf's Up is how late it came into my life when compared to watching, say, A Bug's Life or The Adventures of Tintin. I was about 15 years old or so when Surf's Up was released, and on the surface, it really didn't have any right to be as strangely impactful or entertaining as it ended up being. It was just a mockumentary about a penguin wanting to surf. It seemed like a childish comedy that was made to sell towards kids, and it didn't even look like it had the classic Pixar animation style that I was accustomed to watching and loving. It was a little bit out of left field, and I suppose by doing so, it felt like it shouldn't have been trusted. It just came out of the blue, and who was I to really be able to know any better that this animated film could actually be any good? But I don't know how, and I can't remember exactly why. One day, I just ended up watching it. Maybe it was because it was a time before streaming gave us ample access to so many different titles nowadays that seem to bury us in so much content that, having been deprived of such availability, I had nothing else left to watch other than this silly old movie about a penguin wanting to surf. But man oh man, I was really glad I did so. What ended up happening was an experience that still leaves a lasting and huge impression on me because this film was genuinely entertaining, heartwarmingly funny, and it actually held some deeper, more powerful notions about how to live your life in a more meaningful and noble way. This was something that I didn't expect at all. I mean, there have been other animated works that have deeper messages and important themes layered within their story, but Surf's Up had something else. It had these qualities about it that almost extended to answering what is the meaning of life, or rather, it demonstrated a way of living that felt so peaceful, so zenful, and just so wonderfully joyous to watch that I too began feeling like I wanted that in my own life. Now, for those who haven't seen this film, please stop here and do so as soon as you can so that hopefully you too can share in such an experience. But for those who have seen the film, allow me to expand upon why this movie touches upon these ideas and what makes it so special, starting with the characters and setup. Surf's Up is nothing without its amazing array of characters, and each person that has a line on screen has almost a memorable moment that stands out. And I'm not talking just the supporting cast, but rather the small snippets from a handful of side characters that just pop up here or there for one or two moments. Each of these characters has a purpose, either to deliver a perfectly timed joke or even something a little bit more introspective and serious. But I think the idea of giving each of them their own unique, interesting flavor and purpose really does the film justice overall. They each have been given a level of respect and not just thrown in as random dumb characters to fill out the void. They're also perfectly defined, going from the top of the food chain with our protagonist, who is the quintessential immature, naive hero, right down to the youngest of penguins who just know nothing else apart from playing and messing around. Surf's Up really creates this community of characters that kind of end up feeling like one big family, or a group of friends and neighbors who all know of each other, hang out together, and enjoy the company of each other on this beautiful tropical island. Yes, it's all incredibly idealistic, but at the same time, it just doesn't seem to be anything too unrealistic in seeing a group of characters like this all hanging out and having fun with each other's company. Maybe because it felt like school in some ways, and this was too how I viewed and came to enjoy going to school, because I would also get to see and spend time with my good friends and hang out afterwards, like our own little community. Even if you didn't do or have all of these social interactions in your own lives, you could still watch this film and enjoy seeing these characters all bouncing off each other with their fun, energetic, and uniquely different personalities. From the bigger brothers whose job is to constantly tease their younger siblings, all the way to the bullies of the playground whose egos are as big as their muscles. They're all just hilarious caricatures of real-life characters, and I think the film does a good job of blending them all together in this hilarious comedic mix. But before I go any further, I I have to give a special point of interest towards one character especially, and that is within Chicken Joe. Hands down, out of all the characters in this movie, none other have been so genuinely funny and also subtly insightful as Chicken Joe. He is like Gandhi mixed in with the dude from The Big Lebowski. He is incredibly carefree, but also incredibly caring. He doesn't worry about winning, but he does worry about his friends. He is the ultimate simple man who wants nothing else from life but to have a good time with his friends and to have a good time surfing some beautiful waves. That's it. I don't think I have ever come across a character like him in a film since Surf's Up, or even in any other animated works that have come before. Or perhaps rather, maybe Chicken Joe was the first kind of character whose carefree nature truly made a huge impact on me. Now, I'm not saying I was taking life tremendously seriously when Surf's Up did come out, but when I was watching this character on screen, I couldn't help but feel like I didn't have to worry so much about all the things that I was worrying about at that time in my life. Still to this day, if I ever get caught up with some stress that's happening in my life, I can think back to Chicken Joe and his outlook on life, and it will actually bring me a sense of peaceful content. I didn't need to think materialistic to be happy. I didn't need to work myself to death to find meaning. I didn't need to push myself to such stresses to want more and to gain more that would finally deliver me this ever elusive feeling of being content, which of course, by definition, it wouldn't. I didn't need any of it, and I just loved seeing how simple and happy Chicken Joe was, which made me too want to feel like that. He was and still is one of the most beloved characters I've ever seen in cinema, and I'm being deadly serious. Which also finally brings me to the broader thematic scope of the film in general that I equally love, because Chicken Joe's lifestyle and philosophy is essentially part of the overall takeaways and lessons from the film's main storyline as we watch this young penguin go from being immature and naive to learning about the ways of surfing that extend to learning about how to live a simple, happy, and meaningful life. This happens when he meets his idol and mentor Big Z, who teaches his young protege that surfing isn't about winning, just as much as life really isn't about that at all. It's not about how many trophies you get, or how many points you win, or even how much you earn from the endless amount of competitions that you enter in. It's actually just about being given the chance to surf in the first place, just to enjoy being on the waves in and of itself, the sense of letting yourself go, learning how to become one with the wave, and enjoying the process of riding them along the way. These are all really lessons about how to live one's life, because they echo the same notions of what it takes to be truly content and happy with the world and its own waves that it throws at us. There's this sense of genuine freedom and carefree meaning that in turn can arise when you learn to embrace the waves of the world in such ways, because you're letting go of all other earthly attachments and just focusing on what really matters, you and the wave itself. You're choosing to focus just on that relationship, and for lack of a better expression, are becoming one with the world. For Big Z, being on those waves meant that he could achieve such inner peace, and I believe it taught him a lot about what truly mattered in his life, which were lessons that he shared not only to his young, naive protege, but to everyone else around him. And for myself too, watching this crazy film unfold that became so much more than just about a penguin wanting to achieve his dreams through surfing. I'm not saying the world isn't without problems that we have to face, so we should just ignore them and be carefree all of the time because of some realization that that's really the only and best way of how to live a true noble life. I'm not saying we should become like monks and live like Big Z every single waking minute, but I do believe it's important to try and aspire to embrace both him and Chicken Joe's way of simplicity and joy for life in terms of its fundamental principles of just focusing on the important stuff, enjoying the present as much as we can, and remembering to embrace riding the waves as far as we can do so, while remembering to enjoy the ride with our friends. These waves aren't devoid of their own challenges or obstacles to overcome, and not every wave is created equally. There's going to be some smaller ones that are easier for us to ride, but there's also going to be some bigger monstrosities that will threaten to break us down and wipe us out completely. But Big Z knew that no matter what wave came, he could handle it simply by letting go and not fighting against it, by learning how to embrace and enjoy what happened along the way, because he knew that there was never nothing more to life than just being on that wave and riding it to its fullest, seeing it to its conclusion. In some ways, he was like Marcus Aurelius, a stoic spirit who saw past the material world and recognized a deeper spiritual one that allowed him to feel true inner peace. Which is why Surf's Up will always feel special to me, because not only is it a film that is genuinely charming and childishly funny for any age to appreciate its story, it also has something more to it as it shares important lessons on life, of realizing what's truly valuable and important in this world. And it reminds me of how I can live my own life in a way that's more meaningful, more peaceful, and more joyful, so that I too can never forget to let go and embrace riding my own waves in this grand old adventure that we all take part in, called life.
Shade of blue after the rain. My mind turns